So you're thinking about moving to Independence, Missouri. Well, I'm glad you're here. You're gonna wanna see this. In this video, we're gonna be talking about some pros and some cons, things you need to know before you consider making Independence, Missouri your home. And if you stick around to the end, I'm gonna give you a biggest pro, at least in my opinion, that Independence has going for it right now. And we're gonna get started right now. Hey, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Kansas City and places like Independence, Missouri, then click subscribe, hit that little bell for notifications so you can be the first to know of the current market here in the KC metro area. My name is Zach Morton. My business partner, Max Jones, the Mojo Real Estate team, and I have been helping people move to Kansas City for over 20 years. We absolutely love it, but you don't have to take our words for it. See what our clients have to say with over 600 5-star Google reviews from people just like you. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, just pick up the phone. You can give us a call, shoot us a text, drop us an email, even schedule a Zoom. All of that contact information is in the description below. So we can have that conversation with you about your goals and help you with that seamless transition into your new neighborhood. But today we're talking about Independence, and we're going to talk about some pros and cons. To keep it on the positive side, I always like to start with the pros, so that's what we're going to do right now. And the biggest pro of all is the housing prices. This is the spot that has some of the best housing prices in the whole Kansas City area. It's coming in at 56% of the national average, so that is sweet. So the average sold price over the last 12 months, this is down to this day, coming directly from our multiple listing service here in Kansas City. The average or the median sale price is $197, so that is a pretty sweet spot. That's over 1,700 properties that have sold in the last 12 months in Independence, and that is $197. Now the average list price, it's a little bit over $2, but it doesn't really matter what the list price is. It all comes down to what they're selling for, and that is the last 12 months. And we're even seeing right now with rates pushing up a little bit, we're seeing that price, it's probably gonna dip down just a little bit below that over the next 12-month period, which makes it even better and even more opportunity. So that's my number one pro is the housing prices. Along with that, you've got your cost of living, which is also coming in at 85% of the national average in Independence. Now, the biggest factor to that is the housing prices, but along with everything else in there, when they factor in groceries, healthcare, transportation, all that stuff, it's all coming in under the national average and all contributes to that 85% of the national average. So sweet spot, sweet housing prices, sweet cost of living, a really affordable place, and that's why Independence gets a lot of, it gets a lot of hits. We have calls, texts, emails about it every single day, and that's one of the main reasons is that people are attracted to it. They're like, holy cow, are you serious? This is the prices? You're this close to the city, you've got all this going on. What's the catch? So anyway, that's our first pro, it's housing prices. The second is it's really a large city. It's the 5th largest suburb in Missouri, and it's I think it's 4th or 5th to Kansas City metro area. So it's pretty good size. We've got a population of 120 people. The biggest suburb of Kansas City has 200,000 people. So 120,000 people in Independence with a footprint of 78 square miles. Now, I will say that's an awful big footprint. If you're not talking about this stuff every day, you probably have no idea what that even means. So you could always take a look at our map video where we kind of look at the Google map. We're zooming around, zooming in and out, showing you where all the highways are, kind of what you need to know and how you need to get around. So that'll give you a better idea. We can compare it to some of the other sizes of the other cities, but it's a pretty sizable city. Now, the west side of Independence is going to be your most heavily populated. That's closest to Kansas City city center, and then everything just grows away from the city naturally. So as you move out west through Independence, it's going to turn more into acreage properties and farmland and get pretty sparse. So really the major concentration of all the residential property and where everybody's living, all the shopping and the major highways and all the grocery stores, that's all going to be on the west side and kind of central west of the whole county. So that's kind of how it's laid out, and that size allows to have a lot of amenities. So that's something we'll talk about that goes along with the size is in our next pro, which is things to do. there's a lot going on in Independence. It's been there a long time, 1827, so we're coming up on 200 years here pretty soon that it's been around. And I like to start, if you check out our vlog on Independence, we've actually got a couple of them now where we're down on the square, walking around the square, the downtown square, kind of where it all started around the courthouse. But that's where all the restaurants have sort of popped up. The things to do, like there's a bowling alley down there. There's What's Up Doug, lots of breweries, bars, restaurants, coffee shops. The courthouse is still there, so there's attorney offices around. So there is a lot to do there. It's a pretty sizable downtown too for these older suburbs. It's probably one of the bigger ones as far as the just the shopping districts and the amount of space that they have kind of dedicated, or that downtown area is kind of taken over. So a lot going on. There's a rich history down there. Independence is, not that I want to get into too much history here, but it's the furthest west on the Missouri River. So instead of coming up the river, this was about the last spot you could get off before the river starts just heading north. So it was a major supplying line and takeoff point for the 3 trails. It's called the Queen City, or you'll see 3 trails written on all the walls and stuff around there. And that's the California Trail, the Oregon Trail, and the Santa Fe Trail all just took off heading west right out of Independence. So that's kind of how it's got its claim to fame. At one time there was like 11 blacksmiths working there just to keep all the horse and oxen shoed and all that, so they could strap them to their wagon and get out of town and start that journey west. So anyway, that's where it all came from. So a lot of things to do right downtown. There's an inn, a restaurant and inn. You can stay there. Farmers market, Santa Caligan Days is like one of the biggest festivals in the city. It's over Labor Day weekend, and it's 3 days of just a party where they block off that whole area downtown. Vendors will come out, a lot of like old time, I don't know what you call them, but like blacksmith type people. They'll be out there kind of showing you how it was in the old days. So just a party. All the restaurants are kind of pouring out into the street. So Santa Caligan Days, they just had their 51st annual Santa Caligan Days. So pretty exciting. And this particular event pulls over 300,000 people every year right into Independence Square. So it's a great spot. It's a great spot to support your community, learn a little bit about the history of the area, meet vendors, meet some of the restaurant owners, neighbors, people in the neighborhood in the city, and just a fantastic event. And there's loads of information on that if you want to find more information about Santa Caligan Days, and check that out. All right, some other amazing things to do right near Independence is the location of this place is pretty paramount if you're into Chiefs games or professional NFL football games. The Royals Stadium, all this is just right down the street and makes it an excellent spot for things to do. There's also the Cable Dahmer Arena, which is gonna have, it's a dome arena. It's got your indoor like hockey games, concerts, professional soccer, all things that you put inside an arena, probably bull riding and monster trucks and all kinds of stuff like that. So you're gonna have all that right there off I-70. I-70 is the major highway that goes east to west through Kansas City, like right through the middle. Actually goes coast to coast. But a lot of the big businesses and like the stadiums have positioned themselves on that because it's a heavily trafficked area. It's easy for people to get. It's one of the main arteries going through the city, so it's easy to funnel all that traffic. So Independence, the south side of Independence sits right on I-70. In fact, I-70 goes right through the south side of Independence. So you're gonna have access to all that stuff. You've got Bass Pro, which is a major outdoor outfitter shopping area. Most people I think know what that is, but that's almost an experience in itself. You can go in there. They've got all kinds of outdoor camping stuff, hunting stuff, fishing stuff, but just to go see the aquarium, it's all free, and all the animals. They have a lot of taxidermied animals in there, just all over the place, and it's just a cool lodge spot. So that's right there in Independence as well. So they've got a lot of stuff going for it. As far as other things to do, we kind of talked about that downtown area. There's going to be, last time I Google searched restaurants in Independence, there's over 100 options, and the red dots are just like poof, and just scattered. And you take a look at our map video and we'll do the same thing. But lots of local dining. There's lots of mom and pop shops. There's several chains as well, but for the most part, I mean, there is a huge variety, all kinds of ethnicities, different foods you can try. So no shortage of restaurants, especially barbecue. We always talk about this in Kansas City in all our videos. Barbecue, barbecue, barbecue. It's what Kansas City's known for. So there'll be several of those options. Mom and pop spots with that as well. Everybody's got their favorite barbecue spot. I can't think of what my favorite one in Independence is just off at the top of my head, but I know I've eaten at several. And anyway, we got to get off this. I'm starting to get hungry again. Lots of small businesses as well. When you're going down like 24 and 40 highway, what I think of when I think of Independence is just miles and miles of, a stoplight every quarter mile and just small businesses lining the road in heavily trafficked areas. So, just everything under the sun, from little strip malls to, mechanics to, I'm just thinking all kinds of suppliers, warehouses, custom truck company, just anything you can think of. This place has got it. In fact, when I was a kid, I kind of remember that it was the place that you went to go pick up parts. Like if your dad was working on your truck and you needed something, they didn't have it local, Independence always had it. So just warehouses and shops, and you can find anything you need there, and anything to eat too as far as restaurants go. So it's chock full of that. It's pretty spread out through there. What else can I say that's kind of good and fun about? Oh, some other pros are, as far as we're talking about location, or as long as we're talking about location, it is located just on the southeast side of Kansas City. It is a first-tier property to Kansas City, so it butts right up to it. And then just on the southeast side, and then heads, stretches out to the east from there. So kind of just shaped like a big rectangle with this side button up against Kansas City, and then it just shoots off from there. So when you are close to the city like that, there's some other great suburbs of Kansas City that butt up to that. Some of the best on the Missouri side. We've got like Blue Springs, shares a border with Independence. And then we also have Lee Summit shares a border with Independence. And we've got vlogs and videos and more information on all those areas, but Lee Summit's kind of our land of lakes we talk about. So there's lots of lake opportunities. So being in Independence puts you close to those lakes as well. So if you're into boating and fishing, I mean, literally you're just dropping across the city limits line, and you're into Lee Summit, you're on your boat. And these are some of the nicest suburbs of Kansas City. So anyway, just something else to consider. I mean, the cost of living is amazing, and you are close to a lot of things, the city, and then some other really cool suburbs of Kansas City as well. So those are kind of the pros and the things that I think about when I think of Independence and what I like about Independence. There's still plenty of walking trails. I used to touch on that, outdoor activities, walking trails, biking trails, parks, all that fun stuff. But those are kind of the highlights that come to mind when I think about Independence. So let's talk about the cons, right? We got to get the juicy cons. So this is the stuff you need to know. That's why we try to make these videos real and keep them relevant. And things that we hear about as realtors and agents working with clients, working with families, helping people decide where they want to be. The schools and Independence was one of the cons, and this is one of the things that we hear about the most. And when I go out and I go to like niche.com and I try to pull stats on these schools, there's greatschools.org, what we're finding is, first of all, in Independence, there is 3 school districts. You've got Fort Osage, you've got the Independence School District, which is going to be your biggest school district, and then we have Raytown as well, which is another suburb that butts up to it. So like I said, 78 square miles. We got a lot of space to cover. Most of it is going to be Independent, so we'll just kind of focus on that one. But there are other school districts. Actually, if you get on our vlog, you can go look at one of those properties we actually take you by that's in one of the different school districts too, just to give you a little bit of the flavor of what those different neighborhoods look like. So that'll really affect the neighborhood, which school district you land in. So just keep that in mind when you're looking around in Independence. But overall, back to the school ratings. One of the biggest cons is the schools are not rated very highly. They're not horrible. I'd say for the most part, we're getting C's and B's. And then when you rate it from like 1 out of 10, it's coming in at 6 and 7. So better than 50%, but just not great. There's other, like I just mentioned, a couple suburbs that touch Independence just to the south. Just crossing that line will put you into a couple spots that have A ratings for their school districts. And that's why it really stands out when you're just driving across a border, that the school ratings change that much and there's that big of a shift is what kind of gives that independence, that stigma that it's had for years. Born and raised in Kansas City, been here my whole life, and that's just always kind of, you know, the stigma, what we've always heard. And then when I go back to do the research and pull the stats, it's what they show. So I can say that I think there's 16 elementary schools, like 6 middle schools, 3 high schools in the independents. The elementary schools are going to carry the highest ratings across the board. Middle school, you know, the ratings slide down just a little bit, and then high school slides down the most. So, you know, when you take that into account, it's a great, you know, with the pros, with the cons, right? It's a cost of living, affordability is amazing. And I would say if you're looking for a place to land that's cheap to kind of get started in Kansas City, that might not be a bad option, because then if your kids are in elementary school and because we've still got highly rated schools there, but then as they start to age out into middle school and into high school, maybe if schools are important to you, maybe that's the time when you try to get into another school district that's close by. And like I said, we're just crossing a border literally to get you to Lee Summit or Blue Springs, and it's in the exact same area. So just something to consider, and another way to take advantage of these awesome affordability numbers and these property prices by being independent. So I think that kind of hits on the cons. There are private school options in that. Really, none of the private schools have super high ratings from what I could find. Now, there are some highly rated private schools that are outside of Independence, you know, 15 minutes down the road. Pembroke comes to mind. So there's lots of those options that are scattered kind of around the city, but not necessarily Independence, education. Those things just, you know, they don't kind of go together as far as highly rated. But it's not the end of the world. So the next thing I have on the list for the con is something we hear about a lot also, and that is crime. Now, the crime rate is above the national average. We'll throw this graph up so you can take a look at it. Back in 2007, it was way above the national average. So back in 2007, we got the best prices of properties, some of the most affordable areas in the city. And then 2007, the market crashes, you know, or the real estate market crashed. We had a lot of foreclosures, a lot of properties went vacant, and a lot of that was happening in Independence. We had a lot of vacant properties sitting around. So anyway, you can kind of imagine, and if you think vacant properties, people just taking advantage of that, moving in, partying in them, whatever they want to do, crime's probably going to spike. So that's exactly what happened. You know, people were losing their jobs. It was a tough time. So those areas that were impacted the most, or the property values and those people on the streets, are going to kind of have most crime, most likely. So that's what we saw. 2007, it spiked up, came back down, and now it's up above national average. When you read through reviews of people that are living there now and comment on it, you know, they kind of say the same thing. Schools and crime, that's kind of the two biggest complaints. There's still plenty of good to talk about. We just kind of went over the pros, but that's what they talk about. So I have no doubt if you look in the comments of this, after this video's been watched a few hundred times, you're gonna see some people mention like, yeah, I live there, crime's that bad. Some will say no, but I can say about the crime is, I believe, and I don't know this to be 100% true, but most of that crime is probably focused on the west side of Independence, or closest to Kansas City city center. Like I said, it butts right up to Kansas City. And it's kind of in the area, the southeast side of Kansas City is, in my opinion, and I think there's some stats that'll kind of prove this too, probably not the safest area and the most desirable. It's kind of rough down there on the southeast side. And that's exactly where Independence butts up to. You can take a look at our map video. We kind of get into that a little bit. So when you're taking crime for Independence as a whole, it's going to take those localized areas and just say, hey, that's all Independence. And it's really not that way. So a lot of the downtown activity and the violence, and you know, we're also talking about violent crime. This is the one I like to focus on the most because it's something you can't walk away from a lot of times. There's petty crimes actually coming in below the national average, but the violent crime's the one, you know, that concerns me the most, because I want my clients to live long, prosperous lives and be repeat clients, and that's what I want for everybody. So this is stuff you need to know. So anyway, back to this. The west side, it's dense, it's a little, you know, property values are a little bit lower. You go driving through there, I think you're gonna see the same thing. Older homes close to the city. These old homes are a lot to maintain. They get dilapidated, knob and tube wiring, we got plaster, and there's just not a lot of contractors that wanna work on that stuff. And so people just kind of move away from the city into the newer stuff. It's easier to maintain, that's where the better schools are, yada, yada. That's kind of how it goes. So anyway, The west side, I probably wouldn't focus on that. There are some heck of a deals that you can find down there. But as you move east through Independence, there's spots where being downtown on the square, totally safe down there to walk, or I feel totally safe. Everybody's got a different definition for safety and how they feel about crime and activity, but I feel totally safe downtown walking to town. It's kind of a sleepy, Independence is downtown. It's kind of a sleepy downtown. It's not going crazy. Nobody's going there on Friday nights and just, the place isn't a big party. It's still pretty quiet, nice and walkable. But I would say that like walking from, let's say just west of that, the west side of downtown into Kansas City at night, I would never do that. I don't recommend you do either. So that's the part that I would avoid. I drive through there during the day, it doesn't bother me. I'm sure, there's a slight risk or something, but walking through there at night to get to downtown Kansas City is something I would avoid 100%, and that's my opinion and how I feel about the crime in Independence. In fact, as you continue to move east, kind of past the old downtown, past 291 highway all the way out there, you're gonna get into farmland and country, and it really just turns into acreage, right? And there's acreage opportunities out there. So that's something else to consider. You got great property values. There's kind of a stigma with Independence, but you don't care about the schools. You're gonna stay on the east side of town, and you just want some property, some land. You're close to what's nice about being on the east side and south side of Kansas City, that if you have a lake property, you're going to the Ozarks. A lot of people in the summertime will travel south in Missouri to take advantage of the Ozark Mountains and the Ozark Lake and Truman Lake, and there's a lot of lake activities down there in the summer. It gets hot here. So being on that side of the city gives you a 45-minute jump start on people like me that live on the north side that have to fight all that traffic trying to get out on a Friday afternoon. So that's pretty sweet. It's also put you close to Columbia. If you're going to Mizzou or have kids that want to go to college out there and you want to stay in state, put you on the east side of town, right down I-70, goes straight into Columbia and then on to St. Louis. So there's a lot of cool things about being on that east side of town. And, just to circle back, acreage opportunities. Independence is huge, 78 square miles, and about half, the whole east half of that is just wide open. So check out our map video. We're going to talk about that, and I'll show it to you and what that's all about. But lots of opportunities for acreage, and that's one of my big pros about being on the east side of Independence. Let's see. I think that pretty much sums up kind of the pros and cons. When I think about the negatives of Independence, I think about the crime. I think about, especially on the west side, and the school ratings. And that's pretty much what comes to mind. I don't really, any other stigmas, or I don't really go there for anything. There's nothing really in Independence that I need to go to need, but if you live there, it's got everything you need, kind of like most of these suburbs. So there's not going to be any major attraction. You're still going to have your splash parks and your trampolines, but everybody's going to be coming close to Independence to go to the Royals game and the Chiefs game, and that's going to pull a lot of people. And you've got that arena, and it's not in the middle of Independence. It's just on the south side. In fact, Royal Stadium and the Chiefs Stadium are actually in Raytown, but it's all off that highway that runs right through. I mean, it's really close. You can hit golf balls and land on all these places from Independence. So it's all really close, and to that highway, and quick access in and out of the city. So there's a lot of good things. But I did say, I think we've summed that all up, but I did say if you stick around to the end, I'm going to tell you my number one pro right now and why I like Independence is Kansas City is, if you're an investor, Kansas City in general has just outlawed Airbnbs across the board. Independence, however, since it has a great location to all those major sporting events, we've got World Cup coming to Kansas City, all that, and it's all going to happen in those arenas. And being that close, if you buy one of these cheaper homes and turn it into an Airbnb, people from out of town, they want to be close to the stadium. They don't necessarily care if it's Independence or whatever. They need a house to sleep in, get to the stadium. This really fits a niche for that. So we've got lots of investors that have been slowly picking up properties in Independence because it's one of the most affordable places to do that, turning them into Airbnbs and creating cash flow. So that's another option. I know you're probably watching this because you're looking to move here, but you could move to one of the cheapest places in Kansas City with the mindset, hey, I want to get my feet on the ground, kind of get used to this area, see what I need to know, make sure that you land in a fairly safe area. And then when you go to your next house or your next school district or whatever, you keep that property you just bought, you turn it into an Airbnb or a rental property, and now boom, you've got investment property right here in Kansas City in one of the hottest little pockets that we have going on now. And there's also multifamily and all kinds of opportunities. So the property's affordable, it's cash flowing. It's hard to find cash flow right now, especially with rates getting up, 7, 8, whatever percent they are when you're watching this. But we're finding that in Independence. So anyway, hope you found this useful. Please reach out if you want to chat more about it. Like I said, all of our contact information is in that description below. Reach out anytime. Chat with us, Zoom with us, just shoot us an email so we can help you with your goals. And thanks for watching. Hey, if you're a giving person, please hit that like, the subscribe button. All that really helps us and helps other people find us and encourages us to keep doing these videos for you. So just remember, you got a friend in the business, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.